When I pushed open the glass door to my own office that Tuesday morning, I expected to find it empty. What I found instead was my brother Marcus, sitting behind my desk, his feet propped up on the mahogany surface our father had given me 30 years ago. The morning sun caught the gold nameplate I'd placed there in 1993. It still read Robert Peterson, President, but Marcus wasn't moving. He was staring at me like I was a ghost. "You're early," he said. His voice had that edge I'd heard once before, years ago, when I caught him stealing from our mother's purse when we were kids. "Early?" I set my travel bag down slowly. My hands were shaking, but I kept my voice level. "This is my office, Marcus. My company. I'm not early. I'm home." He stood up. The chair scraped against the hardwood floor, a sound I'd heard 1,000 times before. But this time it felt wrong. Everything felt wrong. "Rob, we need to talk. You weren't supposed to be back until March." "Supposed to?" I walked toward the desk. "Who says when I'm supposed to be anywhere? That was 6 weeks ago. Let me tell you how I got there. Let me tell you how my own brother, the person I trusted more than anyone after my wife died, decided that trust was worth less than the business our father built. It started 18 months ago, the day after Margaret's funeral. The house was still full of casserole dishes from neighbors, cards from people I barely remembered. I was standing in the kitchen at 2 in the morning, staring at her coffee mug, when Marcus knocked on the door. I had a key. Had always had a key. "Can't sleep?" he asked. I shook my head. "Can't do anything. Can't think. Can't breathe right." He put a hand on my shoulder. "Listen, take some time off. Real time. Not a week. Months. The business will be fine. I'll handle everything. Marcus, I can't just leave." "Yes, you can." His voice was firm, the way it got when he'd made up his mind about something. "You've been running yourself into the ground for 3 years while Marge was sick. You stayed by her bedside every night. You haven't taken a day off since 2019. The company won't fall apart if you take a sabbatical." I looked around the kitchen. Every surface reminded me of her. The herb garden she'd planted in those ceramic pots by the window. The shopping list still on the fridge in her handwriting. I don't know where I'd even go. "Asia," he said immediately, like he'd been thinking about it. "You always talked about going back. Thailand, Vietnam, Japan, the places you saw during your Air Force days. Go clear your head. Find yourself again. I'll hold down the fort." Over the next 3 months, Marcus brought it up again and again. At first, I resisted. Peterson Manufacturing was my life. Our father started it in 1967, making precision metal parts for aerospace companies. I'd taken over in 1994 when Dad had his stroke. Marcus came on board in 2000 when his restaurant went under. We'd been partners ever since, splitting ownership 60-40. It worked because I handled operations and clients while he managed finances and contracts. But grief is a strange thing. It makes you tired in your bones. It makes decisions feel impossible. And Marcus was persistent. He showed me travel articles. He talked about Buddhist temples and healing. He mentioned other people who'd done grief sabbaticals and came back renewed. 6 months, he said finally, in late April. Take 6 months, May through October. Miss the Seattle rain. Come back when the leaves change. I'll send you weekly updates. The business practically runs itself anyway. That last part wasn't quite true, but I was so exhausted I wanted to believe it. What about the Lockheed contract? The negotiations? I'll handle it. Rob, I've been watching you do this for 24 years. I know the business. And the quarterly reports? I'll email them to you. You can review everything from a beach in Phuket. I almost laughed. The idea of reviewing spreadsheets from a beach felt absurd. But maybe that was the point. Maybe I needed absurd. What about signatories? The banks need both our signatures for major decisions. We'll do a limited power of attorney. Just for routine business continuity. Nothing major. Just so I can sign vendor contracts, payroll, the usual operational stuff while you're gone. Everything over 50,000 still needs your approval. We'll put that in writing. It made sense. It all made sense. And I was so tired. On May 15th, 2 days before my flight to Bangkok, Marcus came to the house with a briefcase full of paperwork. "Just some housekeeping," he said, spreading documents across the dining room table. "This is the power of attorney we discussed. This is the updated signature card for the bank. These are the Q2 projections you need to sign off on, and this is the beneficiary update for the company life insurance. We're switching carriers, remember? I remembered. Sort of. The last few months were a blur. I signed where he pointed. Page after page. My hand cramped. There's a lot here. End of quarter stuff. You know how it is. Plus getting everything set up so the business runs smooth while you're gone. He handed me a pen. Sign here and here. Initial here. I signed. I trusted him. He was my brother. We'd shared a bedroom until I left for the Air Force. I was the best man at his wedding. I loaned him $50,000 when his restaurant was failing, and never asked for it back when he couldn't pay. That's what family does. All set, Marcus said, gathering the papers. Now go. Heal. Find some peace. Send me pictures of temples. The flight to Bangkok was 13 hours. I slept through most of it, the first real sleep I'd had in months. When I landed, the humid air hit me like walking into a wall, but it felt good. It felt different. It felt like maybe Marcus was right. I spent 3 weeks in Thailand. I visited Wat Phra Kae and Wat Arun. I took a cooking class in Chiang Mai. I got a massage that made my spine crack in ways I didn't know were possible. I didn't think about quarterly reports or client meetings. I barely checked email. Marcus's weekly updates were brief. All good. Lockheed contract progressing. New hire in accounting. Weather in Seattle still gray. From Thailand, I went to Vietnam. Hanoi first, then Da Nang. I stood in Hoi An with a local tailor measuring me for a suit, and I realized I was smiling. Actually smiling. For the first time since Margaret got her diagnosis, I took a picture of myself in the tailor's mirror and sent it to Marcus, getting fitted for a new suit, feeling almost human again. His reply came 6 hours later. Looking good, big brother. Take your time. In late July, I flew to Japan. Tokyo overwhelmed me for the first 2 days, but then I took a train to Kyoto and found a small ryokan near the Philosopher's Path. I walked that path every morning for 2 weeks, watching monks tend to temple gardens, listening to the sound of water over stone. An old man at the ryokan, another guest, told me in broken English, "Grief is like winter, but spring always comes. Always." I posted a photo on Instagram of the garden at dawn, my first social media post since Margaret died. The caption was simple, "Finding peace." Finally, that was August 12th. I didn't know it then, but that Instagram post would save everything. By September, I was ready to think about the business again. I opened my laptop one evening in Osaka and found Marcus's latest weekly email. It was shorter than usual. All running smooth. Numbers looking good. Enjoy your last month. Something about it felt off. Too brief. I scrolled back through previous emails. They'd been getting progressively shorter. In May, he'd send detailed paragraphs about client meetings, employee updates, financial figures. By September, it was barely 3 sentences. I told myself he was just busy. I told myself no news was good news. But Margaret used to say I had good instincts. Listen to your gut, she'd tell me. It knows things before your brain catches up. My gut was talking. I called the office. It was 7 a.m. Seattle time, middle of the night my time. No answer. I tried Marcus's cell, straight to voicemail. I tried again the next day, and the next. On the 4th day, he finally answered. "Rob, everything okay? I've been calling for days. Sorry. Crazy busy. What's up? I think I'm ready to come back early. Maybe next week. I can..." No. The word came out fast. Too fast. I mean, you shouldn't cut it short. You deserve the full 6 months. Plus, we're in the middle of the Lockheed negotiations. It's a sensitive time. Having you suddenly appear might complicate things. Complicate things? It's my company. Our company. And you made a commitment to taking this time. See it through, Rob. You'll be glad you did. There was something in his voice. A tightness. But I was 7,000 miles away, and maybe I was imagining it. "Okay," I said. "Okay. October 30th. I'll be back then." "Perfect. I'll pick you up at the airport." But I didn't wait until October 30th. 3 days later, I booked a flight back to Seattle. I didn't tell Marcus. Something was wrong. I could feel it the way you feel a storm coming before the clouds arrive. I landed at SeaTac at 6 a.m. on October 8th, exhausted from 14 hours in the air. I took a cab straight to the office instead of going home. That's when I found my security card didn't work. The little red light blinked at me like a warning. I tried it again. Red light. Again. Red light. I stood there in the empty parking lot at 7:30 inches the morning, staring at the door to the building I'd entered 5 days a week for 30 years, and I couldn't get in. I called Marcus. "Where are you?" "At the office." "Why? Where are you?" "In the parking lot." "My card won't work." Silence. Then, "Oh, yeah, we upgraded the security system last month. Your old card's deactivated. Come around to the main entrance, I'll let you in." He was waiting at the glass doors. He didn't look surprised to see me. Not really. He looked like someone who'd been caught. That's when I knew. Before I even walked in. Before I saw him sitting at my desk. I knew. "Your office was being repainted," he said as we walked down the hallway. "I've been using it temporarily." But when we got there, the office wasn't being repainted. My name wasn't on the door anymore. The nameplate was gone. And sitting on the desk where my family photos used to be was a stack of documents with Marcus's name on them. Marcus Peterson, President and CEO. "What is this?" I picked up the top document. It was a letter to Lockheed, signed by Marcus, introducing himself as the sole owner and president of Peterson Manufacturing. "Rob, sit down. Let me explain." "Explain what? Why are you pretending to be the owner of my company?" "It's not pretending." He sat down in my chair. My chair. "I am the owner. You signed everything over to me before you left. You said you were done. You said you couldn't do it anymore without Marge." "I never said that. I never." But my voice faltered. Had I said something like that? In the fog of grief, in those dark 3 a.m. mornings, had I said I couldn't do it anymore? "You did, Rob. You were a mess. You weren't capable of running a company. The power of attorney you signed gave me full authority. You wanted out. That was for routine operations, not to steal my—" "I didn't steal anything. I bought you out. Fair market value. You agreed to it." "Show me." He pulled out a folder. Inside were documents. Lots of them. And on every one my signature, bill of sale, transfer of ownership, resignation letter, operating agreement amendments. Page after page, signed by Robert Peterson. My handwriting, my signature. This is impossible. "It's done, Rob. The company is mine now. The business accounts are in my name. The lease is in my name. I've been running things for 5 months without you. Everyone knows you retired." I felt the room spin. "The house?" His face twitched. "I needed capital to buy you out. I took a second mortgage on your house. That was part of the paperwork you signed." "How much?" $300,000. My house was worth $600. He'd leveraged half my house. "You can't do this." "It's already done. I'm sorry it has to be this way. But honestly, Rob, you need to think about what's best. You're 62. You just lost your wife. You've been having problems focusing. Maybe it's time to actually retire. Enjoy your life. I'll send you a check for your half, minus what I've already paid out." "How much have you already paid out?" "About $50,000. Legal fees, consultant fees, the buyout processing. I'll send you the remaining $150. $200,000 for a company worth $3 million. My life's work, reduced to pocket change. Get out of my chair. Rob, get out of my chair." He stood up slowly. "I think you should go home. Think about this. Talk to a lawyer if you want. But the paperwork is solid. You signed everything willingly." I walked out. I didn't remember getting to my car. I didn't remember the drive home. But suddenly I was sitting in my driveway, and the house looked different, smaller, like it belonged to someone else now too. I called the one person I knew I could trust, the one person who'd never lied to me. "Sarah, it's Dad. I need your help." My daughter caught a flight from Denver that afternoon. She arrived at 8 p.m. with her laptop bag and a look on her face that reminded me of Margaret. That same steel underneath the softness. "Tell me everything," she said. "From the beginning. Leave nothing out." I talked for 3 hours. She took notes, asked questions, made me repeat details. When I finished, she sat back on the couch. Did you sign those documents? I signed a power of attorney. I signed some routine business papers before I left, but I never signed anything about selling the company. I know I didn't. But the signatures are yours? They look like mine. But Sarah, I was in Asia. How could I have signed documents here? Her eyes sharpened. What dates are on the documents? We went through them. The power of attorney was dated May 13th. The initial operating agreement amendments were May 13th, but the bill of sale was dated June 22nd. The final transfer of ownership was July 8th. The mortgage documents on my house were dated August 3rd. June 22nd, Sarah said quietly. Where were you June 22nd? I pulled out my passport. Vietnam, Da Nang. And July 8th, Tokyo. August 3rd, Kyoto. I was at the ryokan on Philosopher's Path. Sarah smiled, and it wasn't a kind smile. It was a lawyer's smile. Then he forged them. You couldn't have signed documents in Seattle while you were in Asia. Can you prove you were there? My passport is proof of travel, but not proof of exact dates. We need more. Did you use credit cards? Take photos? Post anything online? I thought about the Instagram post. I posted a photo August 12th. That's 9 days after the mortgage. Close, but not perfect. What about June and July? I scrolled through my phone. Photos of street food vendors in Hanoi, receipts from restaurants, hotel bookings, and then I remembered the cooking class. June 21st. I took a cooking class in Chiang Mai. There are photos. The instructor posted them on her Facebook page and tagged me. Pull them up. I found them. Me wearing an apron, holding a wok, laughing. The date stamp, the 21st of June 2023. One day before I supposedly signed away my company in Seattle. That's perfect, Sarah said. What about July 8th? I kept scrolling. July 8th. July 8th. What had I done? Then I remembered. The tailor. I got measured for a suit in Tokyo. I sent Marcus a photo. Pull up the message. I found it. The photo of me in the tailor's shop mirror, timestamp clearly visible, the 8th of July 2023, 2:14 p.m. Japan time, 8 a.m. Seattle time. The exact same morning I supposedly walked into a notary office and signed transfer documents. He didn't think I'd keep the messages, I said. He didn't think you'd come back, Sarah corrected. Or maybe he thought you wouldn't fight. Dad, this is fraud. Actual, criminal fraud. We worked through the night. Sarah made phone calls to lawyer friends. She pulled business records from the state website. She found the notary stamp on the forged documents and looked up the notary. Carol Jenkins, she said. Licensed notary in King County. Want to bet she knows Marcus? The next morning, we went to see a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. Sarah called in a favor from a law school friend who specialized in business fraud. His name was David Cho, and his office was in a high-rise downtown with views of Elliott Bay. He listened to everything, looked at every document, and when we finished, he leaned back in his chair. This is textbook fraud. The question is whether we can prove it. The passport, I started, is good. The photos and messages are better. But we need more. We need to prove Marcus had motive and opportunity. We need to show why he did this and how he did it. Money, Sarah said. He needed money. Why? David made some calls. What he found out made my stomach turn. Marcus had gambling debts, serious ones. He owed over $400,000 to various casinos and a private loan company that operated in the very gray area between legal and not. He was desperate, David said. Desperate people do desperate things. So what do? We file a lawsuit. We get a court order freezing the business assets. And we go to the police. This isn't just civil fraud, Mr. Peterson. This is criminal. The next 6 weeks were the longest of my life. We filed the lawsuit on October 12th. The judge granted a temporary restraining order freezing all company assets and operations pending investigation. Marcus hired lawyers. Expensive ones. They argued that I'd willingly signed everything, that I'd been mentally unstable after my wife's death, that I'd wanted out. They submitted affidavits from people who claimed I'd said I was done with the business. A bartender who said I'd told him I couldn't go on. A guy from my gym who said I'd seemed out of it. A neighbor who said I'd talked about ending it all. The implication was clear. They were painting me as suicidal, as someone who'd completely fallen apart and wasn't capable of making rational decisions. And in those first dark months after Margaret died, maybe I had seemed that way to some people. But that didn't mean I'd sign my life's work over to my brother. The breakthrough came from the notary, Carol Jenkins. David's investigator found out she was Marcus's girlfriend, had been for 18 months. She'd notarized all the documents, which meant she'd falsely certified that she'd witnessed me sign them. That's notary fraud. That's a crime. When the investigator showed up at her door with photos proving I'd been in Asia on the dates in question, she broke. "I didn't know he was going to do all this," she said, recorded on the investigator's phone. "He told me it was complicated family stuff. He said you'd agreed to everything but couldn't come in person. I thought I was helping." With her testimony, everything unraveled. The bank records showed Marcus had been forging checks. The business accounts showed him moving money into personal accounts. The Lockheed contract showed he'd underbid our costs by 30% just to win it, which would have bankrupted the company in 6 months. He hadn't been running the business. He'd been looting it. The court date was November 28th. Marcus sat at the defendant's table with his expensive lawyers, but he wouldn't look at me. I sat across the aisle with Sarah on one side and David on the other. The judge was a woman in her 60s named Patricia Martinez. She'd reviewed all the evidence beforehand. She looked tired. "This is one of the more brazen fraud cases I've seen," she said. "Mr. Marcus Peterson, you forged your brother's signature on multiple documents. You conspired with your girlfriend to falsely notarize those documents. You stole company funds. You took out a fraudulent mortgage on your brother's home. Do you have anything to say?" Marcus stood up. His voice was quiet. "I needed money. I owed people. Bad people. I thought Rob wouldn't mind. He was a mess. He said he couldn't do it anymore. I thought I was helping him. By stealing from him? By taking over? By letting him be free?" Judge Martinez shook her head. "That's not help. That's theft. The court fines for the plaintiff. All transfers are void. Mr. Robert Peterson is restored as full owner of Peterson Manufacturing. Mr. Marcus Peterson, you are ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $375,000 for funds misappropriated from company accounts and the fraudulent mortgage. Additionally, the court is referring this case to the King County prosecutor for criminal charges, fraud, forgery, and conspiracy." Marcus's lawyers asked for leniency. They mentioned his gambling addiction. They mentioned his financial desperation. Judge Martinez wasn't moved. "Your client didn't just steal money. He stole his brother's life's work. He stole their father's legacy. He exploited grief and trust. That's not a crime of desperation. That's a crime of calculation." The gavel came down. It was over. I'd won. The business was mine again. The house was mine. Everything was mine. But as I walked out of the courthouse into the gray November rain, I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow. Sarah drove us back to the house. We sat in the kitchen, the same kitchen where Marcus had convinced me to take the sabbatical. "You okay?" she asked. "I don't know. I won. But I lost my brother." "You lost your brother when he decided to steal from you. That wasn't your choice." "I know, but it doesn't feel better knowing that." I looked around the kitchen. Margaret's herbs were dead in their pots. I'd been gone too long. He was supposed to be my family. "I'm your family," Sarah said quietly. "I flew across the country to help you. I spent 6 weeks fighting for you. That's family." She was right. I'd been so focused on what I'd lost, Marcus, my trust, that I'd missed what I still had. My daughter had dropped everything to save me. She'd used her legal skills, her connections, her time. She'd believed me when my own brother had called me incompetent. "Thank you," I said. "I don't think I've said that enough." "You don't have to thank me. That's what family does." She paused. "The real kind." Marcus sent one email after the trial. It said, "I'm sorry. I was desperate. I know you'll never forgive me. I don't expect you to." I never replied. What would I say? That I forgave him? I didn't. That I understood? I didn't. That I wish things were different? That would be the most honest answer, but it wouldn't change anything. He filed for bankruptcy. The restitution he owed me was more than he could pay. The criminal charges meant he spent 2 years in minimum security prison. I didn't visit, I didn't write. Some people told me I was being too hard. He's still your brother, they said. But they didn't understand. He'd stopped being my brother the moment he forged my name. Maybe earlier. Maybe when he first had the idea. Maybe when he chose his desperation over our 30 years of partnership. I went back to running Peterson Manufacturing. But it wasn't the same. The employees who'd believed I'd abandoned them looked at me differently now. Some were apologetic, some were embarrassed, some just avoided eye contact. I hired a new CFO to replace Marcus. I changed all the locks, all the passwords, all the signatories. I put cameras in the office. I reviewed every document personally before signing. Trust, once broken, doesn't come back. Sarah stayed in Seattle for a month, helping me transition back. She suggested I see a therapist. You've been through trauma, Dad. Losing Mom was trauma. What Marcus did was trauma. You need to process it. So I went. Twice a week, for 6 months. The therapist said something that stuck with me. Grief makes us vulnerable. People who exploit that vulnerability aren't just criminals, they're predators. You didn't do anything wrong by trusting your brother. He did something wrong by betraying that trust. It's been 15 months since the trial. The business is stable, profitable even. The Lockheed contract got renegotiated at fair rates. I hired 2 new engineers and an operations manager. Life goes on. But I'm different now. More careful, more guarded. I don't sign anything without reading it 3 times. I don't trust easily. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe I needed to learn that. I still have the photos from my trip. The temple gardens in Kyoto, the cooking class in Chiang Mai, the tailor's shop in Tokyo. They saved me, those photos. They proved I was somewhere else when Marcus said I wasn't. They proved I existed independently when he was trying to erase me. I look at them sometimes and remember what the old man at the ryokan told me. Spring always comes. He was right. But he didn't mention that sometimes, on the way to spring, you lose things you thought were permanent. You lose people you thought were family. I talk to Sarah every Sunday now. We're closer than we've ever been. She's teaching me to be more careful, more aware. Trust, but verify, she says. It's become my motto. I trust the new CFO, but I verify the accounts. I trust my employees, but I verify the inventory. I trust the system, but I verify the results. It's exhausting sometimes, but it's survival. Last month, I got a letter from Marcus. It was forwarded from his address to mine. He's out of prison now, working at a call center in Spokane, living in a studio apartment. The letter was short. I think about what I did every day. I think about Dad and what he'd say. I think about the business we built and how I destroyed it. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. I hope you're doing okay. I hope the business is thriving. You deserved better than what I did. M. I read it 3 times. Then I put it in a drawer. I didn't throw it away, but I didn't respond either. Maybe someday I will. Maybe someday the anger will fade enough that I can find words that don't burn. But that day isn't today. Today, I'm just trying to move forward, trying to rebuild what was broken. Not just the business. Myself. The thing about betrayal is that it changes you fundamentally. You become someone who looks over their shoulder, someone who questions motives, someone who expects the worst because they've seen it. But here's what I've learned. That's not necessarily weak. Sometimes caution is wisdom. Sometimes skepticism is self-preservation. I wish I hadn't needed to learn that lesson. I wish Marcus had been the brother I thought he was. But wishes don't change reality. I still walk by his old office sometimes. We converted it into a conference room. His name is gone. His things are gone. But sometimes I can still see him sitting there, the day he told me to take a sabbatical, the day he started the plan that would nearly destroy everything. I wonder when he decided to do it. Was it months of planning? Or was it a moment of desperation that spiraled? I'll never know. And maybe it doesn't matter. The result is the same either way. What I do know is this. I survived. I fought back. I won. And that victory cost me something. It cost me my brother, my innocence, my easy trust, but it gave me something too. It gave me clarity. It gave me strength I didn't know I had. It showed me who my real family is, not the people you share blood with, not the people who were there at the beginning, but the people who show up when everything's falling apart, the people who believe you when others don't, the people who fight for you when you can't fight for yourself. Sarah is my family. David, the lawyer who took my case, is my family. Carol Jenkins, the notary who came forward and told the truth even though it meant admitting her own crime, showed more integrity than my own brother. These are my people now. The ones who chose to do right when they could have done wrong. The ones who proved that sometimes people surprise you, not always in bad ways. I'm 63 now. I never thought I'd be starting over at this age. Never thought I'd be learning to trust again, to hope again, to believe again. But here I am. The business is thriving. I'm healthier than I've been in years. I took up hiking with Sarah when she visits. We're planning a trip back to Japan together next fall. This time, I'll get to share those temple gardens with someone I actually trust. Sometimes people ask me if I regret the sabbatical, if I wish I'd never gone. And the answer is complicated. I regret trusting Marcus with everything. I regret not reading those documents more carefully. I regret a lot of things. But I don't regret trying to heal. I don't regret those months in Asia. They gave me something I needed. Peace, perspective, and ultimately the evidence I needed to prove the truth. Those photos, those timestamps, those moments of joy I captured, they saved me. In more ways than one. The house stands. The business stands. I stand. Scarred, yes. Wary, definitely. But standing, and some days that's enough. Some days that's everything.